welcome to the Fit Affiliate podcast, where we talk about behaviours and behaviour-based conversations as they apply to CrossFit affiliate owners and coaches. My name's Lisa Hetherington. I'm your co-host. Sitting alongside me is Chuck Beddington and Tony Ronke, the co-founders of Fit Affiliate. In today's episode, we are super excited to have welcomed Michael Winchester, the co-owner of CrossFit Karhu, to come along and chat to us. The story of how they came up with the name of their affiliate, the logo and what that represents is a very, very cool story. But what was even more powerful was when we talked to Michael about his focus on coach development, developing his team and building his tribe. Some really great insights there. So we hope you really enjoy today's episode. But before we get to it, if you're listening to this on any of your audio platforms and you enjoy the episodes, please throw us a like and a subscribe, write us a review, leave some comments for us. We love to read the comments. If you're watching us on YouTube, please jump on and subscribe and click on the little bell to the bottom corner. That way you'll be notified every time we throw new content up. We appreciate your support and thanks for coming on the journey with us. Without further ado, let's crack on to the episode with Michael. And welcome back to another episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. Today we're joined with a special guest of Mr. Michael Winchester. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
I'm good. It's funny, like, you know how like laughter and yawning is contagious? There is for sure like a contagion to a good throat clear before a podcast starts, because Lisa got hers in and started recording. I was like, man, there's nothing that I want more right now than
warming up your
my
voice.
throat.
Unique New York. Unique. Audrey. This is Bush League.
I have the beauty of pressing the buttons, so I know how to time it. I'll let you know next time, Chuck.
That's all right. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can actually make that a part of the process. We'll document the way there is 5 seconds out. Everybody does vocal exercises. I don't know.
Yeah.
Last minute pee, last minute yawn, last minute clearing of.
We're not that cool. We don't need it.
Well,
I mean, it's not that cool. Michael's very cool.
I'm just trying to keep up with you guys.
Now you've done a lot of really cool things. I think like Lisa maybe was going to kind of like intro a little bit, or if you have a starting point that you wanted to get rolling on, we can, but then we'll kind of go free form.
Yeah, I just thought it's a good opportunity. Michael, just give us a little bit of your background, and then we can roll through the conversation with the guys.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I guess as it pertains to this podcast, what might be important, I found CrossFit in 2008. I had just moved back from a little stint living in Europe, in Madrid, and I moved back to Austin, originally from Houston, Texas. And when I moved back to Austin, did a couple odd jobs, finally found CrossFit. Have a similar, what I would imagine would be a similar kind of origin story from a lot of people. Walked into a CrossFit gym, did Fran, got my ass handed to me. Thought to myself, wow, this is something different and cool.
I would love to trick other people into doing this.
Exactly. So kind of just drank the Kool-Aid in that first year, and then in 2009 got my L1 and started coaching. And then fast forward to 2014, that's when Jessica and I started CrossFit Karhu. And and the rest is kind of history from there. We've had the gym it'll be 8 years this October. Had a lot of good times, had a lot of hard times, but here we are.
What makes a person live in Madrid for so long? Please tell us that story.
Yeah, so growing up in Houston, Texas, I was a soccer player. That was my sport. And the majority of the guys that I was playing soccer with, as you might imagine, were Latino, from all over the place, from the States, from Mexico, Central America, South America. And just at a young, kind of early age, it was intriguing it was interesting that I could not communicate with them. And I kind of just made it this little goal of mine. It was a weird goal for a young kid to have maybe, but I was like, man, I really want to be able to communicate with all these guys in their language. So started studying Spanish in middle school, continued through high school, studied Spanish 4 years in college. And then at the end of college, I was like, this is great. I'm so close, but I'm not over that hump of being able to read, write, speak, and understand fluently. So I was like, well, there's only one way in my mind that I'm going to reach that level. And it's if I go and live in a Spanish speaking country for some amount of time. Didn't know how long that was going to be. I had two options. I could join the Peace Corps and get sent somewhere. You don't get to choose. They send you where they think you're needed. You can kind of request a region of the world, but the commitment was 2.5 years. And I didn't know at the time if I could, if 2.5 years was something I was going to want to commit to without knowing where I was going to be. So the second option that I found was a teaching job in Spain. And you could, again, you could request a city, but you didn't really have a whole lot of say over where you were going to go. So I filled out that application, got selected to the program, and ended up in Madrid. Went over there, lived over there for 2.5, almost 3 years. And that kind of did it for me. That it got me fluent in Spanish. Yeah. And it tickled all my fancies, and I got to do kind of what I wanted to do. I got to live abroad, which is an experience I think everybody should have at some point. And then at the end of that, it was kind of like the contract was up, and I was like, all right, time to move back to the States. I could have moved back to anywhere, but I'm a Texas boy, and my parents had just moved from Houston to Austin. So Austin seemed like the place to be. So that's where I ended up.
I mean, I think that story is cool. I obviously knew it a little bit, but I think it gives a good glimpse into who is Michael Winchester, because that's a kind of next level of obsession, sort of immersion, which I think really gives people an insight as to like how the next part of your journey went and really what that looked like as you jumped off. Because you and Jess have really created something nothing short of unique with Karhu. And so I think that in order for people to understand just how that happened, they have to really truly understand the two personalities behind the damn thing. And that's one of the reasons why we're like, we're dragging Michael onto the podcast. We'll pull Jess on here next. But naturally, you get a little bit less of the forward-facing publicity, but it's for no shortage of your energy and enthusiasm that drives this whole thing. So we wanted to share this story because that's kind of one of the things that we like to talk about here is the unconventional approach to conventional things. And y'all smashed it with that thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That means a lot to us. Anytime we get that kind of positive feedback, that's always really awesome. So thank you for that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same. I think you guys have mentioned it before when we've spoken before, but CrossFit gym owners are maybe a different breed. And that's not like patting ourselves on the back or anything. That's just kind of a realization of what it takes to own an affiliate or a small gym in general, and to kind of persevere and make it what you want it to be over so many years.
Well, we've done a lot of podcasts with affiliate owners, and as crazy diverse of a group as it is, one of the major commonalities is kind of that growth mindset and a forward-facing responsibility to curate their own journey.
Yeah.
And there have been no shortage of people that I've met through the years, or my own story, the common affiliate owner story, that like there was some earlier deliberate piece of intended growth that they sought a life's journey out in, found it hugely rewarding, and then have with fitness the ability to help replicate that with somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that this is interesting, and maybe it's an assumption, but like I would imagine when you and Jess opened the gym, and that's where we can kind of move to next, you didn't have this grand idea of like, we want this piece of our hero's journey to be that we own gyms. You're like, right, man, we want to help save and change lives and share this thing that has changed our life with other people. Maybe that's a guess or an assumption, but I figured that one's probably closer to the truth than you guys are like, we want to be known as gym owners.
No, not at all. In fact, the thing that I guess the biggest irony, and the thing that we're still kind of working to overcome with you guys and through Fitfiliate, is that Jess and I never really wanted to be gym owners to begin with. Like it was one of those things, like we love coaching. Coaching is our passion. Coaching is our calling. And like, man, there's nothing else that really I would rather be doing than to be coaching people. I mean, that's kind of what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's what inspires us. It's what keeps us going. The opening of Karhu really came out of necessity, and it was something that we felt we needed to do and had to do if we wanted to continue to enjoy what our passion is, which is coaching people. And so the best way for us to do that back in 2014 was to open up our own gym. And yeah, it was kind of like, well, we don't want to be gym owners, but this is, we think we can do it better than maybe some of the other people around us. So we're gonna take that jump. And so, I think it's again, here we are 8 years later.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. When the gym came on the scene, you definitely came on the scene and made a big splash. I remember really when that whole thing. I was uniquely tied into the affiliate community in Austin for whatever reason. I'm not actually sure. I through like Webb Smith, and so like I think that's really kind of how it happened. And then so I was kind of abreast of the whole thing. But like when you guys popped in the scene, you didn't just like open affiliate, like you guys threw yourselves at this thing, which I thought was very cool. So first question that I want to ask you is, where the hell did the name come from?
That is the classic question. That's the first question that almost everyone asks.
I know. Everybody's gonna.
No, it's great. It's great. No, it's yeah. No, you have to. So I had been at the time I was working with the Outlaw Way, who you're also familiar with, and so we were traveling around and we were doing all these seminars. And we went to a seminar in Finland, which was awesome. And so we were there for, I think, 2 weeks or just over 2 weeks. And during that time, at some point I had made my way into like a grocery store, and there was this logo, and it said Karhu, and it had this kind of drawing of like what might be like a wood carving of a bear's head. And it just like was so awesome. And so I was like, man, that is such a cool logo. That is such a cool like word. So a little Google search, and it turns out that Karhu means bear. So when we came back and we were starting to develop the ideas and concepts around the gym, what we wanted to name it, how many classes we were going to run, all those kinds of details. The name came up, and so I was like, y'all, I think this is it, like CrossFit Karhu or Karhu CrossFit. I don't know which order, but it's like that's what we really kind of settled on. Yeah. One of our founders was also part Finnish. Her family has a lot of Finnish heritage, and so we kind of like we honed in on that, and we said, yeah, this is kind of weird, Finnish words and Finnish kind of language, but it's different and it's kind of sticky, so let's go with it. So we submitted the application for Karhu, for CrossFit Karhu. Karhu CrossFit, and HQ came back and said nope, and they didn't give us a reason why, as they normally don't, but we were aware that there's a Finnish apparel company that's called Karhu, and they make running shoes and running apparel. It would be like an Adidas or a Nike, but Finnish. And so I imagine that there was some copyright issues there. So we went back to the drawing board and we said, well, we like the word Karhu, but what's the closest thing? So we were looking like down Finnish words and their translation, and Yakarhu with the 2 A's and the umlauts over the A's was in there, and it means polar bear. So it's close. And it's like, okay, well, how are people going to say this? Like we don't even know how to pronounce it. How are other people going to pronounce it? But we just kind of like, we went all in, and we submitted that name to CrossFit, and they accepted the name. So that's what it is. that's kind of where it comes from.
Also, y'all just got lucky, right? Because like everybody was like, I admittedly, like when you guys came out with that, I was like, I never felt so stupid trying to figure out Jack. Yeah. But like nobody could forget it, right? So it was like, is it like Jackaroo? Jackaroo? Yeah. Is that how we say this? I don't really know. That gym down there, right? But like, and then I learned that it was polar bear after the fact, and I was like, well, that's weird for Austin.
Then just kind of so the original Karhu that you saw on the package in the grocery store in Finland, what type of item was this package?
It was a tall boy. It was a 6-pack of tall boy beer. Yeah.
My guess was beer. I knew it wasn't going to be tampons. I figured it was like beer or cookies.
Yes,
No,
sure.
that's what it was. And, later on, Jess and I kind of fleshed out a lot more of the idea behind like what the polar bear symbolizes, what it means.
Cool. So why don't you, so that's kind of where the name is, but why don't you talk us through a little bit of the symbology?
Yeah. So the symbology is in a lot of Native American tribes, it's been said, and they kind of believe that if you dream of a polar bear, if you have a polar bear appear in your dreams, it's kind of like an omen or a symbol of transformation. A lot of Native American tribes also believe that the polar bear is what guides you from this world into the next world. So there's a lot of transformation and moving from one place to another place involved in that. And so we thought that fit pretty well with our beliefs and our ideas of taking people from where they are currently to where they want to go in the future. So transformation and moving from point A to point B. That's really kind of how it started and what we kind of hold on to today.
I always thought that part of the story was cool because, like, obviously people think they like bear just because it's this large, aggressive, masculine. It fits sort of but like for you guys, that is so very quintessentially Jess and Michael to have taken something that could be that and then shift the perspective to be like, yeah, I know that bear, but how about this version of the bear?
How about dream bears?
Our bear. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think that part's cool. So admittedly, there's the power of a name. I think is you guys are kind of a master class in that, which I think is very cool. We talk about this a lot with a lot of affiliate owners. Is that like there's a lot that goes into a name, and I'm sure you've been around the affiliate world long enough to know that like there's some interestingly named CrossFit affiliates. That I'm not sure any thought went into that at all. They were just like, yeah, tell me what you will give me for a name, I'll take it.
Nah, man, they were on that affiliation back and forth email chain, and they were like 7 replies deep, and they're like, I don't know, man, just fucking pick up Google, throw a couple words in. I'm past my point of fucks to give.
Yeah, we were lucky we got it on 2. So
the best part of that, so as soon as you guys affiliated, it wasn't very long and you made it to the games, which I think is obviously a notable feat for many affiliates for many reasons. But for me, the value in that was watching everybody stumble over your name on a world stage, which I thought that part was funny. I was like, this is hilarious because I'm not the only one who's trying to figure out to say this damn name. So that was kind of cool. So talk to us a little bit about that, because I think people definitely know you guys for it, but you guys came out the gate swinging and then found yourself there really quickly.
Yeah, that was kind of a lot of things happened in our first year. That was obviously one of the bigger ones. So, we opened in October of 2014 and we started with 66 members, and I think in the first 12 months, we went from 66 to maybe 150, 180. Like our numbers started creeping closer to 200. A short time after we opened, we barely, I don't know if y'all ever saw the first gym, but it was a 12,000 square foot industrial facility tucked away in like an industrial part of town, no street signage. You had to like enter kind of like what looked like a boneyard of, trash and some other like construction and abandoned cars. And then you had to like wind around a dirt, rocky road, unfinished road to the back of this place. And then kind of like when you turn this corner, it opened up to this huge gym. And we had barely, gotten the equipment in and gotten the turf laid and had the pull-up bars and the wall ball areas installed before we were presented with the opportunity to host the open workout that year, one of the open workouts, 15.2. So obviously we're going to accept that offer. And so then I guess it would have been March, like the first or second week of March, 2015, CrossFit HQ came down. We shut down the gym for a week. They roll in with their production team and their equipment crew and completely transformed our gym from, just a CrossFit gym into, an open announcement stage. So that was obvious. That was another thing that kind of put us on the map in the first couple of months right there. That they sold, I forget how many tickets they sold, but I think it was close to like 400, maybe 400 plus.
You guys were there was standing room only, ass to elbow, nut to butt.
Yep. Yeah, they brought in, like stands, bleachers, for people to sit. So they had made our center turf area into an arena. We had to actually bring in one of my buddies that still is my buddy, but at the time he was a member. He's not a member anymore, but he had to come in and like cut out, like blowtorch out some of the stuff that we just had installed so that they could bring in the cameras and have all the different angles that they wanted. And then afterwards we had to weld it back into place. I mean, it was the whole thing, but that was awesome.
Like pausing on for just a second for people to appreciate, like, imagine 5 months into your affiliate owner journey, like not even half a year. HQ's like, so we need your gym for a week to make minor improvements in construction too. And by the way, we're going to host this event that'll have like almost 500 people. You guys got this, right?
It was epic. It was truly, again, went from, a coach to an affiliate owner in the span of a couple of months. And then from an affiliate owner to an affiliate owner who's hosting 15.2, arguably one of the more important, the open announcements, especially during that time, were like, I mean, it was the thing you wanted to be at or watch. I mean, it was the open announcement. It's the beginning of the season. Very big deal. So it was, humbling for us to be able to be there so quickly. And then, it was like we had just gotten the gym put together and they were taking it apart. And then it was just like, holy shit, what have we gotten ourselves into? But it went really well. We spent the next week cleaning up and putting stuff back in place, but that was awesome. And then that year we had our group of athletes. We had a lot of experience on that team. And then we also had some brand new athletes. We had our boy Orion Hones, who had just showed up, a couple weeks after we opened. He had driven down from Wisconsin in this old, I'm surprised he made it, but it was this old like 1990 blue 2-door like Ford pickup truck or something. And it was just, the wheels were falling off. And he walked in and he said, "Hey, I want to compete with you guys. How does that work?" And I was like, "Well, let's start working out." And so he came in, and I, how many times as an affiliate owner do you have someone walk in the doors or as a coach and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to make it to the games." Like it's a weekly occurrence.
Especially at that time in the community.
Yeah. So I had this kid who was kind of skinny at the time, and all of a sudden he started putting on muscle and he started snatching big weights and lifting heavy and doing well. So that was just one example of the kind of person that was kind of showing up around that time with the buzz that was going on. And then we went through the season, we went to regionals, and we got 5th place in regionals that year by the skin of our teeth. The last workout that year was this really awesome but confusing workout where it was a conga line of all 6 athletes. All 6 athletes are all working at the same time at different stations, and you can't advance until the person in front of you has cleared their station. So, we were right there on the bubble in the last workout of the weekend. We had taken some first places. We took first place in the handstand walk and in the snatch event. And then we'd taken some really kind of hard hits on some other events, finishing, like 15th, 16th. So we were right there on the bubble. And there was like OPEX and Backcountry Black, and there were some like really awesome teams that we were competing against. And then that last workout, it came down to essentially, if you looked at the floor, there was 10 teams on the floor. All 6 athletes were working. So you had 60 athletes on the floor. And then you also had 1 judge per athlete. So you had 120 people on the competition floor. I remember it like it was yesterday. Mayhem, right? Not CrossFit mayhem, just mayhem. So you had 120 people on the floor, and it was going to come down to like a number of reps. We didn't know how much. We did not do well in that workout. Admittedly, we got caught up in one of the stations, and then the time, ended. It was a 20-minute time cap, I think. And we were all just kind of looking around like, what the hell just happened? And where are we? And how did that finish? Because you couldn't tell who was where and how many points. Every rep of every athlete counted as a point. So they had to go through and count every rep for every athlete. And it turns out that we beat the 6th place team by 2 reps, not like 2 places, 2 repetitions. And that's 2 repetitions spread across 6 athletes. Right. So like it must've been a matter of like 1 second or 2 seconds. Yeah.
What were those 2 reps? What the 6 stations were?
It was, I don't remember all of them. I remember there was a row to begin, and there was a strict handstand push-up in there. And then there was, those are the only 2 that I remember. But it was, I think we got hung up on the strict handstand push-ups. It bottlenecked us. And we qualified by 1 or 2 points, but it came down to 1 or 2 reps. was
That's
what
awesome.
it was. So it was pretty cool. So then we went to the games. We did decently at the games. We finished, I think, maybe 22nd, I think 22nd that year. Yeah. So, but more so than the performance of the team, you know, the name was kind of, I think, what stuck in people's heads, and people to this day are like, hey, you know, y'all have competed at the CrossFit Games like every year, right? Since y'all have been open. I was like, no, just once. We've had a great team every year, but only competed the 1 year in 2015.
It's the power of a
I think
brand.
a lot of it is like, yeah, the name and the logo. They're very sticky.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these days everybody will talk about, you know, marketing as lead gen. I mean, you know, direct response marketing is absolutely one part of it, but in a world where everybody's caught up on that, what I think is very cool for you guys and to be a part of that, especially, is that you guys have really almost accidentally become like that master class in branding, right? And it really just came down to seeing that tall boy in Finland. It was like, I'm going to do it, but it was what you guys did after you made the determination. You're like, you know what, I think this is it. But you didn't just like put the picture on the wall. We're like, yeah, like you did the work to figure out how to embody what that meant and what that was going to mean for the brand. And I think what I think is cool about Karhu is that, you know, knowing both of you guys very well now, obviously as clients as well, but just as people in general, you can tell that not only was like the opening of Karhu, but like that was kind of a coming of age sort of tale for both you and Jess, like watching the evolution of you two as coaches. You know, that early stage, you know, we're going to become an affiliate, we're going to go to the games, we're going to do these things. And now the people that you guys are now, and that's kind of the journey I want to get into, is that like where you've learned, where you've evolved to, what that's looked like. But I think that sort of that precursor, that thing that was essentially foreshadowing, was you didn't just try to name your gym after a bear. You tried to figure out what a bear could mean symbolically, and you figured out how to tailor your approach to that. And that, I think, is something that shouldn't be overlooked by a lot of listeners, is that there's a lot of power in a name. I'm not advocating you to rename your affiliate per se, but there's a lot of different nuances that are subtle. But that simple decision, I think, set up so much of your success. And I think that that's a really unique part of both you and Jess. But I think that coming of age tale is a story that I think is worth digging into a little bit more, because you had that early on success, and then you've had relatively great success up till that point. But talk to us a little bit about, like, so after the games, or not so much, you know, post games, because I know you guys are still very competitive, but like, what have you guys learned over the time since like that 2015 games? And talk to us a little bit about the evolution that is CrossFit Karhu now.
Oh man, we could go a lot of different ways with that. I'll just start talking, and then you guys tell me what you like.
No, you just start talking, but if it ends up being mentally overwhelming, you can frame it as if you could talk to yourself now.
Yeah. No, I think I can't speak for any other affiliate owners besides us, but I would imagine that most affiliate owners, if not all affiliate owners, learn a whole lot. And the learning lessons that we have, you know, could fill a book, as I'm sure every or at least most affiliate owners could write a book on.
They certainly experience a lot. We don't know if they learn yet, but
yeah, there's a difference there for sure. You know, I think that, you know, to your point, Tony, I think that, you know, we started with an idea, and you know, Jonathan Haynes, who works at HQ, he was one of our founders, and he did a lot of what he called storytelling. And so that's something that kind of started back at the beginning, was not just like, hey, we're a gym, here's our name, here's our logo, but it was, what does the name mean? Like, if people are gonna want to train with us and be around us, then, you know, there's got to be something more than just CrossFit. There's got to be some kind of story. And so that's really what the whole objective, maybe for the first year or two, was telling our story, and getting not just our story, but the story of our people in the gym, right? Everybody's got a story. So one of our goals in the first couple of years was to tell a story, a compelling story, a story that would make people want to be around us, want to train with us, want to do the things that we're doing. And we continue that to this day. I mean, where we started and where we are now is the result of a lot of deliberate thinking and a lot of very deliberate and difficult conversations held over, you know, the course of 8 years. I think that having conversations is the best, or maybe even in my mind, the only way to make like any kind of real progress. Obviously, at some point you have to take action. You have to do, you have to do the thing. But I think that before that, I don't think, a lot of people have enough conversations or go deep enough into their conversations. So, I mean, on a weekly basis, we're at the gym, and if it's not Jess and me having a conversation, it's Jess and Taylor, or it's me and Steven, or it's me and Sarah, or it's Andy and Jess. We're always trying to communicate our thoughts and our feelings and what we think is, going to be the best practice moving forward. So, I guess going back a little bit, I think the evolution kind of started out as we knew that we wanted to be really great coaches. And so we thought the best way to do that would be to open up our own gym so that we could have the most amount of control over how we communicate, what we communicate, how we coach, etc. And then from there, starting out as, hey, we just want to be great coaches. Well, now we want to have a great affiliate. We want to be known. And so those are kind of like, I wouldn't say selfish, but they're very like Karhu centric type goals, right? Now where we are today, it's evolved over time. We've had a lot of ups and downs. We've had some really great successes. We've had some really trying rough times when, we were probably a week away from shutting the doors of Karhu, down there in year 4 and 5 when, shit gets really hard. And, where we are now today is, yes, we want to be great coaches still. And yes, we want to have a great affiliate that is, known for excellence. But now, and this is, through conversations with y'all know this, but we want to really change the way that coaching is viewed, and especially CrossFit coaching is viewed, right? We want to create a place, a business, a gym that is long-term sustainable and that can provide not just jobs, but careers for our coaches. So that, starting out from just wanting to be a coach or just wanting to be a great coach to now wanting to be able to change people's views of coaching and what that profession is in the world, right? You have your doctors and lawyers, and you have your teachers, and you have all these different professions out there, and they have a certain kind of place in people's mind. And coaching seems to always end up as just one of those things towards the bottom, where people think that coaches have the best job in the world because we get to wear comfy clothes and t-shirts, and we get to hang out in the gym all day, and we get to do this thing, CrossFit. It's the coolest thing. You guys are living the dream. And while that is the case, yes, we are living the dream. It also doesn't come without a lot of hard times and sacrifice. So we want to change that perception of what it means to be a CrossFit coach. And we want our coaches to know that they can have careers as well that offer 401ks and that pay living wages, places they can grow and work towards saving up for the future for themselves and their families.
So I'd be interested to have you expand a little further on that, because I know it's a realm that you're super passionate about. And, I'd like to hear why you think that it is that, relative to the disproportionate value that coaches provide, they do sit universally fairly low as a piece of social hierarchy or social status. And I've got my own thoughts on it, because that's always blown my mind. But I know that that's a thing you really care about. And so I'd be interested to just get more of your thoughts as a fellow, like, longer term coach in the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's a complex, it's a complex situation, but I think that really when it comes down to it, I think that there's a couple different issues. I think that, I think number one, that there's people see different professions and they know what goes into it because they've been around for so long. So again, back to like being a teacher, that you have to get a degree in teaching, right? Most places you have to get some kind of special education, some kind of special schooling. Same goes for most jobs. If you want to be, a mason or a welder or again, a doctor, a lawyer, you have to get some kind of higher level of training before you're allowed to do those things, whether that's a degree or whether it's, a special school, a trade school, or what have you. So I think people kind of, they immediately, they see those jobs and then they say, oh, well, I know that if they're doing this job, then they must have some high level of understanding of that job. And they must have gone through a mentorship, an apprenticeship, training, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think that people see that with coaches. I think what they see is, oh, what does it take to get your L1? Oh, well, it takes 1 weekend and $1,000, sitting through a 2-day course. Oh, well, that's not that hard. I could do that. I mean, anybody could do that, And so they see that, but they don't see that, yeah, that's like, that. I wouldn't even call it like the jumping off point. Like that's just, I mean, it's kind of a no brainer. And then to be a really, really great coach, it takes a lot of extra work. And if you're really doing it right, then you're reading books and you're learning from other coaches and you're taking time and you're spending money to travel to seminars and you're going and you're studying under people. And then there's the experience factor. I don't think a coach can really be great inside of 5 years, and 5 years is kind of a short amount of time. I've been coaching since 2008 and I still consider myself a baby coach compared to other coaches that I see in other realms, NFL coaches that have been in the game for as longer than I've been alive. They've been honing their craft and perfecting their craft over 40 years as opposed to my, 13 or whatever it is. So I think that's part of it. I think that there's just a general lack of understanding of what it takes to be a great coach in terms of education and experience. And then I think that for our members and for members that go to gyms and CrossFit gyms in particular, it's their recess. It's the most fun part of their day. They've been stuck in the office and they've been stuck at home with kids and dogs and chores and responsibilities. And they've been at the office where they have to do their job that they may love or they may hate. And so then they get to go to the gym. And when they show up to the gym, it's like they leave all their emotional baggage at the door. They walk in, they get to see their friends and their training partners. And it's like, coach is here and coach is giving you a high five. And then they get to exercise. And so they're sweating and they're having fun. They're learning. They are releasing endorphins. And then at the end, they get to, 3, 2, 1 Karhu, and they get a break. And then they get to bullshit, next to the fan with all their buddies, and they get to pet the dogs that we have in the gym. And so it's like, it's adult recess. And so it's the most fun part of their day. And so then they think that because it's the most fun part of their day, that we must just be having this experience that they're having for an hour. We have this perpetual experience all day.
Recess.
from the 5:30 a.m. class all the way through, the 7:30 p.m. class. It's just nonstop fun and entertainment for us. And sometimes it is. But again, I think that that's just the general perception is that if they're having fun and enjoying themselves, then obviously it's a breeze and easy for us as well,
Sure.
So to take this in a more useful direction, I think for, a lot of the listeners, that is not the perception that your clients have of the coaches in Karhu. They look at them as truly high value service providers that make a substantial return on investment, like in improving their lives. And so if we all agree that, regardless of somebody having a CrossFit gym or just a gym in general, the world would be better off if their clients were valued higher, or if their coaches were valued higher by their clients. And so I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on kind of how you guys have helped get people over that bridge where they're like, oh, it's just coach lives at recess. It's basically like a glorified PE teacher, except way more fun because there's rap music and swear words. But like really, like this is somebody that has a relationship with me that's potentially just as important or more important than my doctor, my lawyer, my accountant. Like this is somebody who's invested in me having quantity and quality of life.
Yeah. Again, it's happened over a very long time. It takes a long time to develop that and to have your members and your people understand that. And the way that happens is you have to have high quality coaches, I guess, as a starting off point. And I don't just mean coaches that know how to teach an air squat or how to teach a snatch or how to teach a muscle up. I mean coaches that have both the knowledge, but also the ability to deliver that knowledge. And beyond that, they are really great people at heart, and they know how to communicate well. They're good communicators, and they truly give a shit. They truly care about people, and people can tell when you give a shit and when you're maybe not giving as much of a shit, right? People can read that and can sense it really quickly. So one of the things that we have at Karhu is we have 6 coaches currently, including Jess and myself. We have 6 coaches on staff, and each coach has been in this field has been coaching for I believe 10 years or more. Each coach has at least a decade of experience of coaching underneath their belts. And so I think that is one thing that separates us from other gyms, is that you'll go to a gym and you'll have like a 22-year-old postgraduate that does a trade for membership. They'll coach a class or two a week for a trade or for membership. And there's nothing wrong with that. It works for some gyms, and that's what they choose to do. But the only problem that I see there is that number one, the experience is diminished. I know this through personal experience and also through talking with our members when they go to other gyms and they've had that same experience. But there's also a high rate of turnover with those coaches, because it's usually a filler or something to occupy their time before they go on to their next thing. And so one thing that we have is we have coaches that are dedicated, professional, full-time coaches. This is the only thing they do. They don't have another job. This is their job. This is their career. And so I think that if you can hold on to a group of coaches for a long enough amount of time, and if all of your coaches are experienced, again, in that 10-year realm, 10-year range, then it starts to mean something, and it starts to look a little bit different to the people that, again, we've had members. I have some members that I've been coaching for almost my entire coaching career for 10 plus years. And so when you have a member that's been with you for 10 years and you have coaches that have been with you for 5, 6, 7 years, it starts to change the feeling and the vibe in the gym from, oh, this coach comes and goes, or right, man, they've had 5 coaches leave and now they've hired 5 new coaches and I don't know this person. I don't have a relationship with them. So that's one way that affiliates can start to shift that perception is of what the value of their coaches are, is by holding on to good talent. Now, how do you do that? That's really hard too. Well, what we've discovered and what we're moving through right now is that we're having to, pay our coaches more money to keep them around. And that's something that we believe strongly in. And that's something that we've made every effort to do. But that's the only way that it happens, right? And so if you want the best coaches, then you need to pay the best coaches what they're worth. And I think that's another thing that once our members find that out, it lends a little bit more credibility to our mission, is that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. We're willing to do the things and take the steps necessary to retain these high quality coaches that provide you this value every day. And so that's kind of the mission that we're in right now.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that your first problem that you bring up is essentially, it kind of boils down to like lack of clarity as to what a coach is, right? Like, and I think this is probably one of the, if you've definitely listened to the podcast, you know that I believe that this is probably the biggest problem that faces coaches, is that the term is just thrown around. It's a catch-all, right? Like coach is all different things. And so like to draw back to like your analogy of like jobs or trades, like a welder and a coach are not the same thing, because like a coach at this point gets thrown around more like a mechanical contractor, right? Like where they can do all sorts of different things. They're good with a hammer, they can do a saw, they can weld if they need to, etc. And so,
tool guy.
Yeah, right. So I think that is the first big problem that plagues most people, is just the sheer ubiquity in which the term is thrown around, and people are just like, the coach is the coach is the coach. And I think what Karhu has done a really good job of, and it's something that we obviously try to get people to understand, is that Karhu has done a really good job of conceptualizing the journey of a coach, right? In that, like, it's only time, it's only investment, and it's only experience that's going to move you from A to Z, essentially. And it's not about entitlement in that I've done this seminar, I've done these things, and so therefore I should be respected. Like, you have to kind of earn that keep. But I think what is unique about that and what you guys have done is that you have respected that it is a journey, and you've treated every coach as a participant on that journey, as opposed to what I think I see a lot in a lot of other affiliates, is that they tend to view most coaches as finite or in completion, right? Like, you've come in, you've completed whatever it is. You're willing to take a class from me, particularly the morning class. So I don't have to get up. Like, perfect. Like, well, I don't care if the journey moves forward. What I know to be unique about and true about Karhu is that you guys are not interested where anybody's at now. You're interested in where you can get them to. And I think that is the central cool part about what makes you guys unique, is that you are a part of that journey. Maybe it goes all the way back to conceptualizing that polar bear thing. But like, if a coach walks in the door, you're not just a coach. You and Jess do a really good job of visualizing and believing in the journey of that coach, and then truly investing in it, right? Like you just said, we're willing to put in the money, we're willing to pay them because we want to keep them. And really what you mean is that, like, you want to be a part of their journey, right? And that's how you know that you guys are coaches, because all coaching is essentially a transfer of belief. It's your job to believe in another person more than they believe in themselves. And so I've watched you guys, you and Jess personally, essentially believe in your coaches more than they believed in themselves and been a part of their journey. And I think that back to that original clarity sort of conflict where people just don't know what they are, you guys do a really good job of not only starting them on their journey, helping them understand where they're at in their journey, but then also letting them believe in you as owners, and that like Jess and Michael will get me to the next step of my journey, the next step. And I think that that's really the cool part of what's happened with Karhu. And I think like, aside from the fitness and the workouts and the game scores and those things, like what it means to wear that bear shirt for you guys. And obviously I'm biased because I've been a big part of this with our work together, but like what it means to be a big part of that is that like, it just means to be on the journey, right? And like, that is a very cool thing to see. And I watch your decision-making, rubric as it applies to all things. And like, you guys are always thinking about where somebody's headed as opposed to where anybody's at now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both your fans and the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you nailed it. I think there's one thing that I do. There's one thing that I do when I write. So we send out, a lot of communications with our gym members, newsletters, etc. And one thing that I always do when I write the word coach is I capitalize the C at the beginning, because in my opinion, a coach is one of the highest callings, or one of like the most sacred professions that there is, because what is a coach but a teacher at the end of the day? And some of the most important and impactful people in my life growing up were coaches. And there's all kinds of coaches, to your point about the ubiquity of the word. There's football coaches, soccer coaches, track and field coaches, there's life coaches, there's all kinds of coaches out there. But when I talk about, a big C coach, it's not someone that's delivering a workout on a whiteboard or writing a workout and then guiding people through, like you said, Chuck, like a glorified PE teacher. A coach is someone that is caring for the person holistically, right? If you've ever been a CrossFit coach, you know that it's not just workouts and fitness. It's people's personal lives. It is therapy. It is, a shoulder to cry on or an ear to listen to someone. It is a lot of times life advice, right? It's not just about how to get someone their first strict pull-up. It is about, they want to change their life around. They want to lose 50 pounds because they're severely overweight, pre-diabetic or diabetic, and they're in an emergency situation. They have two options. They can go and they can start slamming a bunch of pharmaceuticals and do that for the rest of their life, or they can come into our gym, get off the medicine, lose the weight, make some friends in the process, feel good about themselves. So there's this whole kind of like suite or package of things that coaches, especially great coaches, deliver to their members that, aren't on the business card, so to speak.
For sure. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. I mean, we call it surgical compassion. It's like kind of the culmination of all those things, right? Because like coaching is caring, but caring gets to be, in some regards, it can be also a handicap through sympathy or empathy, where like, that's not what coaching is. Coaching is that thing where you're like, if you need my help and you can convince me that you do need my help. And that's really about the first part of that relationship building, is that if you can convince me that you need my help, I'm going to help, and I'm going to help until the job is done. Right. And you might not like the help all the time, but I promise you, I'm going to be here until this journey's over, or until you tell me to fuck off. Right. Like, and so
right. That
is one of those parts that I think is so absent, because I do think words like sympathy and empathy get in the way. And I do think that words like care become a big catch-all too, but like you guys smash that. And I know that like you have it. Was another thing that I think is worth mentioning is that you very much believe in a smaller community, right? Like you guys have no interest in being, you were big once, you now know that like, this is our sweet spot, because this is the level of which we can be surgically compassionate. If we get beyond this, our ability to care, so to speak, is going to be effectively mitigated. And that is one thing that you and Jess, when you came in, with us as clients, you're like, we are unflinching. We are unwilling to waver from this. This is the level of which we need to be at to care. And we're like, all right, let's do it. Let's figure out what has to get done to make that happen. And I think that that's a cool part of the brand too, is that you guys are you're not willing to sell out on the care part. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, and a lot of it comes down to, you know, before becoming affiliate owners, I think one of the reasons that we care so much about our coaches today and what quality of life they have and what their potential is in the future is because Jess and I were coaches together for 5 years before we opened up Karhu. And so we have that experience of being on their side of it, on the other side, right? We have that experience of, you know, being just a coach, not an owner, seeing what we liked. You know, the whole reason why we opened up Karhu was for a particular set of reasons that we didn't agree with. You know, how the coaches were managed and handled. So we knew that we could do that better. And now in the first 7 years of Karhu, we were kind of co-coaches with everybody. And now I think, you know, talking about the arc of time of our coaching careers, we're in this stage now where we are trying to provide the things for our coaches that we could never, that were never provided to us before. Right. So we have that experience and now we know what that's like and we want better for our coaches. Right. It'd be like, you know, somebody grows up in maybe not the best of circumstances, and then they have their kids and they want better for their kids. So they try to do everything in their power to kind of reverse or oppose what they experienced growing up. So again, that's kind of our mission right now is, you know, I don't want to ever say that I will not coach because again, I love coaching. I see myself coaching for the rest of my life, but I think that there's things that Jess and I can do now with our experience, such as provide long-term careers for our coaches and provide a gym that is something that is going to last for 20 years and not just, you know, 8 or 10.
Yeah. And coaching never stops. The levels just move up, right? It'd be really cool if, like, for example, Karhu, I don't know, just came up with like this Karhu coaching development program that you could just bring in all sorts of, that'd be strange. What a world that would be. No, I think that I think it would be cool for anybody
Actually,
to be able to walk in.
On that, can I pause for 1 second? Because I'm super fucking curious. I am sure that through the years, because of what you guys are known for in the competitive realm, that as the owner of Karhu, you've had people reach out about like competitive classes or competitive programming, or like, how do I do fucking X, Y, and Z in the gym? And it's probably not really focused on a lot of deep why related things, but a lot of like what's. Mm-hmm. How often do people reach out to you to ask about developing coaches and growing and retaining a long-term staff?
It's never happened.
Interesting.
It's never happened.
Interesting. That's never come up before, but like, fuck, man, the secrets of life are hidden in the cliches, and like it is all right there in plain sight.
Well, and you know, I mean, so you know, one reason for that, and this is, you know, Jess and I have our strong suits and we have the places that we need to work on. And so our strong suits are the things that you guys have been talking about, you know, our vision, our desire to remain small and compact and high quality, you know, quality before quantity and all that. The stuff that we need to work on, and the thing that people, our best friends and also just complete and total strangers have criticized us for or offered us feedback, is that we are terrible salespeople. We do not know how to sell ourselves or promote ourselves. And in fact, it's not that we're not good at it, but we're not good at it because it's not something that like sparks anything in us. So we just don't do it, right? Like self-promotion is just not something we're good at. So, you know, people aren't going to come to us because there's other shinier, flashier people out there on Instagram that will also take their money, but maybe not have the same kind of level of experience. So, and you guys know that with your own business, there's a lot of weird stuff out there, a lot of charlatans, but you know, then there's actual, you know, good people with solid companies like yourselves that, you know how to do it right. So yeah, I mean, it is weird, but it's not, you know, it's something we can explain.
Wow. I definitely wouldn't consider you guys bad at sales. I would definitely actually consider you the opposite of that. I would also consider you to be unflinching in your level of commitment. And I think that a lot of people view sales as manipulation as opposed to persuasion. And you guys are terribly effective at persuasion. and you're terrible at manipulation.
Yeah.
So, and you're just not willing to engage in that. You don't need to be engaged in that psychological subterfuge of like discounted rates and changing this and hacking this apart and offering them whatever. You're just like, it is what it is, and it is. But I can assure you, once you come in, you ain't leaving, right? And like, so it's up to you to make that decision. And you, I know your numbers, so I know you guys crush that. So I definitely would not call you guys bad at that. You just are bad at the sleazy part of it, but you're good at the good part of it. Sales never feels like sales when it's done right.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Your storytelling.
Yeah, great storytelling. Well, I mean, there's a whole lot more that I want to dig out of this, but we've been dragging you through this for an hour, and I think that I speak for both of us that we're probably going to definitely pull you back on here. Maybe we'll pull you both back on here tandem, because that would be really fun.
I think we do an episode with Jess and then an episode with both of them.
For sure.
Jess is always fun on podcasts.
There's some stories that I know about personally that I want to ask, but I think it's better if I ask them when you're both there, because I think that they're funnier. But maybe it would be better to ask them individually. So that's the only questions that I have for you. I think that really the key takeaway for this one is just in what you guys have been able to create, essentially, and an understanding that everybody's on a journey, whatever that looks like. You guys have conceptualized that better than any affiliate that, you know, we've come in contact with in a very long time. A lot of people do a really good job of it. But what I think is cool about Karhu is that you guys set out to do that, and you were successful at doing that. I mean, you're still learning, you're still kind of coming of age, like we talked about, but like, I think it was cool that you set out to be like, we cared about the journey. Let's get people to start their journey and take that journey. And we want to be a part of that journey. And I think that that's the cool thing, is that you guys have just been a part of that. And I think this speaks a lot to who you both are as owners and the founders, as well as like the coach you've had in there, but it's also the people you attract in the gym. And so I think your story is worth following for anybody that's listening to this. And hopefully, if they don't already know how to say your name, they now know how to say the name. That's probably the big reason we brought you on here, so that there was some closure as to how the hell you pronounce it. But
yeah, if you take away anything from this conversation, it should be how to pronounce the name.
Not the journey, not the coach, none of that stuff.
No, none of that.
This is how you say polar bear in Finland.
And then everybody's like, I'm just gonna say Karhu.
Yeah. Much easier,
so
much more simple.
If anybody wants more information from you guys, how do they follow you? I mean, Jess, where do they get information? How can they get in contact with Karhu or follow you guys?
Yeah, so you can visit, you can go to our website, www.crossfityakarhu.com or www.karhustrength.com. You can check out my Instagram, which has significantly less followers than Jessica's Instagram, but mine is at Coach Winchester altogether, and then Jessica is at Estrada Flies.
They already know that one.
Yeah, they know that one. I didn't have to say that. But, those are probably the best ways to see what we're up to, and to maybe reach out and come visit if you're in town, or join if you live here.
For sure.
Well, thank you, dude.
Awesome.
Really appreciate getting the time with you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, guys.
Good conversation, and thanks for that. And we will definitely see you back again, mate.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend, for listening to the Fit Affiliate Podcast. If you would be interested in hopping on a free call with us to just kind of chat about what you think your problems are and what you think the gap is between where you're at and where you want to go, we can see if maybe we can help you along that journey, figure out if we're all a good fit to do some sweet things together. So click the link, set up a consult. Let's help you identify some problems that we can mutually solve.